The chamber was vast and silent, floating above the stars like a shining crown. The Galactic Council had gathered, leaders of many alien races sitting in tall seats carved from crystal and metal. The air was heavy, thick with the weight of decisions that could shape entire galaxies. They had come together to speak of Earth, a small planet they once considered weak, fragile, and unworthy of fear. Now, however, whispers filled the chamber like invisible waves. The Xeran delegate, tall with scales that shimmered like knives, leaned forward and hissed softly. Earth is silent. They do not answer. Their colonies burn, and still they send no plea, no surrender. His words spread quickly, bouncing from one alien ear to another. The Vayari, whose bodies were made of living smoke and light, chuckled in a sound that echoed like broken glass. Perhaps they are too broken to respond. Their ships were dust when we struck. Their defenses crumbled like paper. Humanity is finished. Others laughed, their voices rising in cold harmony. The Council enjoyed such news. They believed they had finally silenced a species that always spoke of freedom and defiance. But not all were so sure. At the far edge of the circle, a smaller figure sat unmoving. The Krell ambassador, whose people were known for their sharp vision, whispered low, "I have seen the records. The humans did not beg. They did not run. Even as fire fell on their colonies, they fought. Even as their fleets shattered, they stood. Do not mistake their silence for defeat." The chamber grew quieter. Some eyes flickered with unease, but most dismissed the warning. The Council had seen countless species fall. What was one more? Humanity was only flesh and bone, so easy to break, so easy to erase. A hologram lit up in the center of the chamber, showing images of Earth's colonies burning, ships exploding in deep space, survivors dragged away in chains. The scene was meant to confirm victory. Yet something strange lingered in the images. The humans' eyes, even as they died, held a fire. They glared at their captors, jaws clenched. They spat blood and curses. Their faces were not broken, only waiting the Torgan warlord, whose people had led many of the attacks, growled with pride. "They are finished. We crushed them. We made them an example to others. Let no one forget what happens when a minor world defies the will of the Council." He banged a clawed fist against the table. His voice was thunder. His pride was poison. But the silence of Earth was strange. Normally, defeated worlds sent endless pleas, promises of tribute, cries for mercy. Humanity had done none of this. They had spoken no words at all. And silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is a blade waiting in the dark. One by one, the delegates returned to their discussions. Some wanted to divide Earth's territory. Others wanted to enslave the humans who survived. Plans were made like vultures circling over a corpse. The Council laughed and argued, trading insults and promises. They did not see the storm building. On the horizon, in the shadows of the chamber, one of the observers, a spy from a neutral world, sent a quiet message to his people. "Be careful, the humans are not finished. Their silence hides something. I feel it, I fear it." His warning was ignored, buried under waves of arrogance and pride. The meeting stretched on for hours. Stories of past victories were told. Feasts were promised. The Galactic Council was certain of its triumph. Yet outside, in the endless dark of space, rumors spread like sparks. Patrol ships disappearing without reason. Supply lines cut. Unknown signals appearing on scanners. Some dismissed them as accidents. Others suspected rebels. None dared to think it could be Earth. The Xeran delegate, restless, spoke again. "We should not relax. Humans are cunning. They adapt. They are dangerous when cornered. Do you not remember their history? Do you not remember how many wars they fought even among themselves? They are born from struggle and they thrive in chaos." But the Council did not listen. They waved their claws, their tendrils, their lights, dismissing the concern as paranoia. "Humans are broken," they repeated. "They are nothing." Their words were empty armor against a fear they refused to name. Above them, the stars watched in silence, cold, endless, unblinking. In those stars, ships stirred, engines whispered, weapons awoke. Humanity was not finished. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was planning. The chamber of the council glowed with gold and blue lights, a vision of power and unity. Yet within, seeds of doubt had already been planted. The silence of earth was not the silence of the dead. It was the silence before thunder, the quiet before fire. And one day soon, that silence would break. The delegates laughed. They feasted. They congratulated themselves on a war they believed was already won. But far away, in secret hangars and hidden bases, humans sharpened their claws, built their shadows, and whispered to each other in low voices. The galaxy had made a grave mistake. The galaxy had thought Earth was prey. But prey does not wait in silence. Prey does not prepare weapons in the dark. In the vast chamber of the council, pride filled every corner. They did not know the truth. They did not hear the quiet heartbeat of a world rising from the ashes. They did not see the spark of vengeance in human eyes. They did not know that silence was the loudest warning of all. The holograms flickered once more in the great chamber, replaying scenes of burning colonies and shattered fleets. Alien delegates leaned back in their seats, their faces glowing in the light of human suffering. They believed the story was complete. They believed humanity was finished. Yet somewhere in the silence of the hall, doubt was spreading like a shadow. The Torgan warlord rose to his feet, his armor shining with cruel pride. "Look here," he growled, pointing to the hologram of a ruined station. "This is the fate of those who resist the will of the council. Their walls fall, their fleets burn, their spirit crumbles." His voice shook the chamber, and many nodded. The display of power pleased them, but not all. The Krell ambassador leaned forward, her eyes narrow and sharp. "No, not crumbled," she whispered. "Look closer, see their faces. Those humans did not beg. They did not kneel. Even in fire, they stared at death without fear. That is not the look of a broken species." Her voice was calm, but her words cut through the chamber like a blade. The delegates shifted, some uneasy, but the Veari emissary, made of glowing smoke, let out a cruel laugh. "You mistake stubbornness. For strength they are only flesh, their ships are dust. Their silence is proof of their defeat. Humanity has nothing left to say." The council nodded, comforted by easy answers. Yet the holograms told a stranger tale. In one frame, a human, captain, blood running down his face, slammed his ship into an enemy cruiser, sacrificing himself to destroy the enemy. In another, a group of colonists fought with their bare hands after their weapons failed. They were dragged down eventually, but their defiance was unbroken. The images should have brought satisfaction. Instead, they left a bitter taste. The Xyloran general clicked his mandibles, uneasy. "They are strange, these humans. Most species plead when the end comes, but humans do not. They fight as if death itself is their ally, as if their destruction is only the beginning of something worse." His voice trembled at the last words, for he remembered something, an old battle report from centuries ago, when humans fought one another with savage weapons, millions dying but refusing to surrender. The chamber grew colder. Shadows clung to the walls like watching eyes. The council tried to laugh again, tried to drown their doubt in arrogance. "They are nothing," they repeated. "They are finished." But the words were weaker this time, fragile like glass. Then the doors of the chamber opened and a courier rushed in. His breathing was sharp, his body trembling. He held a datapad in shaking hands. "Report," the council demanded. "Speak." The courier hesitated, fear in his eyes. Patrol ships gone, entire squads lost at the edge of council space. No distress signals, no escape pods, only silence. His words spread through the chamber like fire. The delegates stiffened, claws and tendrils twitching. The Torgan warlord snarled. Accidents, pirate attacks, nothing more. But his voice lacked certainty. His eyes darted nervously as if searching for an answer that did not exist. The courier shook his head. "No, honored council. The ships did not drift. They were erased, their signals cut clean, their destruction precise." He swallowed hard before whispering. It was not pirates, it was something else. The chamber fell into a heavy silence. For a moment, only the hum of ancient machines filled the room. The Krell ambassador spoke again, her words quiet but sharp. I warned you, humans are not finished. Their silence is not surrender. It is preparation, murmurs spread. Some laughed nervously, others whispered of ghosts and shadows, but the fear was real. The idea was simple, yet terrifying. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was planning. Humanity was coming. The hologram shifted again, showing Earth itself, blue oceans and green lands scarred by invasion. But the world still turned, still breathed, still lived, and in its silence, there was power. The Vayari emissary tried to rise to calm the chamber, but his smoky form flickered with unease. Even if they hide in the dark, what can they do? Their fleets are gone, their weapons destroyed. They have nothing. But a voice from the shadows answered, slow and deliberate. You are wrong. It was the oldest member of the council, a being who had seen empires rise and fall for centuries. His eyes were like black suns, heavy with memory. I have watched humans for longer than you have lived. I have read their history. They build when broken, they fight when outnumbered, they turn silence into fire. You think they have nothing? That is when they are most dangerous. The chamber shook with arguments. Some demanded an increase in patrols. Some shouted for full invasion to wipe out the last of Earth's people. Others called for peace before it was too late. Their voices clashed like weapons, but beneath the chaos fear lived. Fear of the silence. Fear of the humans who did not beg. Fear of the storm they could not see. The courier, forgotten at the door, whispered one last message. His voice barely carried over the noise. We found wreckage, alien wreckage, but no human ships, no survivors, just pieces of our fleets drifting in the dark. He paused, shivering. It was as if they struck and vanished like shadows in the void. The delegates froze. Every eye turned to the hologram of Earth once more. Its silent oceans and scarred lands reflected in their gaze. Humanity had spoken no words, but their actions were beginning to echo through the stars. The council had laughed at silence, but silence was no longer comforting. It was heavy, sharp, and alive. The galaxy had not crushed humanity. The galaxy had awakened it, and deep within the stars, hidden from the council's gaze, the first spark of retaliation was already burning. Far from the shining halls of the Galactic Council, deep in the endless dark between the stars, something stirred. Reports began to scatter like whispers. Never complete, always fragmented. An alien patrol ship entered a quiet sector and never returned. A convoy carrying supplies to a distant colony sent its routine signal, and then silence. No wreckage, no survivors, no warning, just shadows, the reports. Piled higher. Delegates argued, warlords snarled, but no one could explain it. The official record named pirates, rogue species, cosmic storms, convenient excuses. But behind closed doors, captains whispered one word with dread. Humans. The truth was, not seen in grand battles or declarations. It was felt in the quiet, in the fear that spread along the space lanes. Alien crews began refusing to patrol the sectors once marked by human colonies. They spoke of strange signals, radio bursts in dead languages, encrypted codes with rhythms like human speech, flickers on scanners that appeared for a second and vanished. At first dismissed as machine error. Soon they became warnings. One captain swore he saw it. His fleet's long-range sensors picked up a shape gliding through the void, black as night, larger than any recorded human ship. For a moment, its hull reflected starlight, and then it was gone. Engines silent, weapons hidden as if the void itself carried it. He filed his report and no one believed him. But the story spread. The Council had once mocked Earth for its crude ships, fragile metal boxes compared to alien designs of crystal and living alloys. But the silence of Earth had given birth to something else. In secret hidden bases, humanity had been building not with pride but with rage, not with beauty but with purpose. Their warships were not meant to shine. They were not meant to be admired. They were meant to kill. The first true proof came on, the Outer Rim. A Zyran destroyer fleet moved into an abandoned system, confident and arrogant. They found nothing. The sector was empty. No signals, no colonies. They relaxed, turned their scanners low, laughed at their own paranoia. Then the shadows came. Out of the void, human ships moved, black hulls drinking the light. No announcements, no demands, only fire. Railguns cut through, armor like knives through cloth. Torpedoes detonated with a precision too sharp to be chance. Within minutes, the Zyran fleet was broken, their screams lost to the void. The last thing one survivor saw was the human emblem carved into the side of a ship, scarred and brutal. A reminder, they were not gone, they were hunting. Back in the council chamber, the news arrived like poison. Many delegates refused to believe. Fabrications, they said, illusions. Others felt the cold truth pressing on their minds. The humans had vanished, but not in defeat. They had slipped into shadow, building something new, something terrible. Fear became rumor. Rumor became story. And stories traveled faster than light. Alien merchants spoke of convoys that vanished. Scouts swore of ghost fleets. Even the bravest soldiers began to look at the stars differently, wondering which patch of black sky hid human eyes. Among the council's spies, hidden messages were intercepted, fragments of coded transmissions. At first nonsense, then slowly, a pattern emerged. One phrase appeared again and again, Shadow Fleet. The name spread in whispers. Humanity had become a phantom in the void, striking without warning, leaving only destruction behind. What terrified the council most was not the strength of these attacks, it was the precision. Humans no longer wasted lives, no longer fought with desperation. They fought with patience, with intelligence, with a cruelty that mirrored the cruelty. Once shown to them, the Krell ambassador, always the cautious voice, spoke again in the council chamber. You do not understand what is happening. They are not fighting for victory, they are fighting for vengeance. That is stronger than survival, stronger than fear. They have become something you cannot control. But the others drowned her words in denial. Meanwhile, more fleets vanished. The silence grew. Alien empires began moving their borders away from human space, pretending it was strategy, but really it was fear. Even the proud Torgan warlords avoided certain sectors. Their arrogance cracked. Some began to see a pattern in the attacks. Human strikes were not random. They were maps. They followed supply, routes, weak points, stations that held importance. Humanity was planning, building pressure, testing defenses, and every strike carried the same message, though never spoken aloud. We are not gone. In the void, rumors of a flagship began. Larger than any human vessel before, a ship built from rage, forged in silence, armed with weapons that no alien mind could imagine. Some called it a myth. Others swore entire fleets had seen its shadow before it vanished. The Galactic Council found itself paralyzed. If they admitted humanity lived, they admitted weakness. If they ignored the reports, their fleets would continue to fall, and in that conflict, fear grew stronger. But somewhere beyond their sight, in the dark edges of forgotten systems, human captains spoke quietly among themselves. Their voices were steady, calm, filled with steel. We strike and vanish, we are the shadow in their minds, let them wonder, let them fear, and when the time comes, we will return in force. The Council had mocked humanity's silence, but now that silence had turned into something worse. It had become the sound of hunters moving in the dark, preparing for the kill. And as another alien fleet disappeared into nothing, the galaxy finally began to understand. Earth had not been silenced. Earth had learned to whisper in shadows. Earth had learned how to make the stars themselves into weapons. The Shadow Fleet was real, and it was only the beginning. The silence did not last forever. It never does. The Galactic Council had convinced themselves the humans were only phantoms, rumors told by frightened crews. But one night, beneath the endless stars, the truth arrived in fire. It began on the rim world of Drizar, a mining colony rich with resources stolen from Earth's old trade routes. Alien overseers watched their workers with lazy arrogance. The system was heavily guarded. Orbital platforms stood ready. Fleets of destroyers prowled the skies. No one believed danger could reach them there, not after Earth's defeat. Then the stars cracked open. Without warning, space itself bent, engines flared, and a human fleet tore into real space. Black warships sliding from the void like predators from the deep. Their hulls carried no markings of pride, only scars of old battles. Every surface was painted in darkness, designed to swallow light. The first orbital platform did not even fire. Its sensors blinked, tried to lock on, and then died. A rail slug the size of a shuttle ripped through its core. A sunburst of metal and flame marked the return of Earth. The silence was over. Panic filled the colony. Overseers screamed orders, fleets scrambled, alarms howled across the skies. The Torgan commander of the defense fleet snarled, "Crush them! Wipe them out," believing once more that humanity was small, fragile. He sent hundreds of ships into the dark, but the humans had not come to fight fair. Their fleet moved like shadows. Engines dimmed, signals masked. They struck in silence. A destroyer broke formation to hunt them, and vanished under a storm of guided torpedoes. Another squadron tried to flank, only to find themselves caught in a web of mines laid seconds before. Human ships did not meet strength with strength. They cut the enemy apart piece by piece, and then the message came. From the lead human ship, a signal burst across every channel, not in alien tongue, but in clear, steady words. "You wanted war. Now you will have it." The voice was calm, cold, without mercy. The alien fleets froze, even their commanders shaken. For centuries, the Council had spoken with arrogance, with superiority. But now, humanity's voice returned, and it was a blade. The battle raged on. The humans fought with fury, but also with precision. They struck and vanished, letting panic spread faster than weapons. Alien ships crashed into each other in confusion, commanders shouting, their orders broken by fear. On the ground, the colony watched in horror as their fleets burned. The sky turned into a graveyard of fire. One by one, the proud banners of the Council's empires fell, and through the flames, the black silhouettes of human warships loomed like nightmares. The Torgan commander, furious, demanded his ships rally. "They are only remnants, shadows of a dying world. Stand and fight." But even as he shouted, his command vessel shook. Human boarding parties had cut through his defenses. Armored soldiers of Earth stormed his bridge, silent, ruthless. Their leader spoke no words, only a single action, planting the Earth emblem into the command deck, a symbol carved in blood and steel. The Council could not ignore it this time. The news spread across the stars. The humans had returned, not as the broken survivors everyone believed, but as predators in the dark. Their retaliation was brutal, and it was only the beginning. Back in the Council chamber, silence gripped the delegates as the reports came in. The Krell ambassador's warning echoed in their minds. Do not mistake silence for surrender. She had been right. Some tried to deny it still. A lucky strike, a desperate attempt. But others saw the truth. They saw the fear in their own fleets, the panic in their own colonies. Humanity had shown its face again, and it was not weak. What unsettled the Council most was the precision of the attack. The humans had not wasted time with random vengeance. They struck a world of value, a fleet of pride, and left survivors only to spread the message that Earth was no longer silent. In hidden chambers, strategists argued, should they launch an all-out assault to finally erase humanity, or sue for peace before the storm grew worse? But even as they debated, more reports arrived. Fleets missing, colonies burning, human warships vanishing as quickly as they appeared. In the dark, humanity had learned patience. In war, they had learned cruelty. They no longer sought survival. They sought retribution, and every strike was a promise. The galaxy now remembered what it had forgotten. Earth was not a broken world. Earth was a forge. Every loss, every scar, had been turned into steel, and the Council sat in its shining chamber shaken to its core, as a single truth carved itself into their minds. Humanity had returned to the stars, and this time they were not asking for mercy, They were here to collect debts, and as the smoke of Drizar drifted into the void, the human fleet faded once more into silence. The stars swallowed them, leaving only ruins and fear behind. A silence different from before, not the silence of the defeated, but the silence of hunters waiting. For the next kill, the retaliation had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy answered Earth's first strike with fire. Entire armadas were summoned. Massive fleets pulled from every empire loyal to the Galactic Council. They believed numbers would smother the human flame. They believed sheer weight would crush. The shadows on the edge of Council space they gathered. Thousands of ships, their hulls gleaming in the light of nearby stars. Battleships with guns the size of towers. Cruisers bristling with missile pods. Carriers swarming with fighters like clouds of steel insects. It was the greatest display of power the galaxy had seen in centuries. To the Council, it was a show of dominance. To the humans, it was a challenge. Reports of Earth's retaliation had spread like wildfire. Rumors told of black warships invisible on scanners. Rumors told of ambushes so perfect they seemed like nightmares. And now, with this grand fleet assembled, the Council prepared to end the humans once and for all. But Earth was watching. In the cold dark beyond the fleet, human ships drifted, silently. Their hulls swallowed light, their engines whispered. They studied every patrol, every formation, every weakness. They did not rush. They did not roar. They waited, hunters watching prey. When the moment came, it was not thunder, but whispers that began the war. A single alien supply convoy vanished. The fleet sent scouts. The scouts did not return. Then, without warning, the sky ignited. Rail slugs tore through cruisers before alarms could sound. Torpedoes rained like meteors, exploding in perfect rhythm. Human ships emerged from the shadows, each strike precise, each kill deliberate. They were not attacking to overwhelm. They were cutting, slicing, dismantling piece by piece. Alien commanders shouted orders. Fighters launched in waves, burning through space to swarm the humans. But Earth's warships moved like shadows, slipping between formations, luring fighters into minefields, turning their own numbers into chaos. One alien admiral roared into the comms. "They are few. Break them. Crush them." But when his words ended, his flagship cracked in half. A rail slug pierced its core, and silence swallowed his command. Panic rippled across the fleet. The humans were outnumbered 100 to 1. And yet, somehow, they were winning. Not by brute force, but by knowing. They had studied their enemies, learned their tactics, and turned them into weapons against them. Entire wings of alien ships found themselves isolated. Communications jammed. Their sensors blinded. Human strike teams hit them from all sides, then vanished into the void before reinforcements arrived. It was not war. It was butchery. And then came the boarding parties. Human Marines cut through, airlocks like knives. They wore black armor with no insignia, their helmets hiding their faces. They moved without words, silent and merciless. Entire alien crews surrendered, only to find no mercy. Messages carved into bulkheads were left behind in blood and fire. Remember Earth. The stories spread faster than the battles. Survivors whispered of human soldiers who fought as if pain did not touch them, who killed even when outnumbered, who laughed in the face of death. To some they were demons. To others they were nightmares made flesh. In the council chamber, fear grew like a living thing. They demanded answers, demanded strategies. But the truth was simple and cruel. Their grand fleets were breaking. Their numbers meant nothing because humans fought differently. Humans did not fight to win battles. They fought to break spirits. Across the war zones, alien admirals began pulling their fleets back. The mighty armada shrank as commanders grew too afraid to fight. They whispered excuses, spoke of regrouping, but in their hearts they feared. For the humans had made something clear. Every battle was a trap. Every star could hide death. One desperate empire sent its entire home fleet to face the humans, determined to make a final stand. The battle lasted hours. Fire filled the skies. Entire planets shook. And when the smoke cleared, the humans were gone. The Empire's fleet lay in ruins. The survivors were left with a single message burned into their comms. You will never know peace until Earth is avenged. The galaxy shivered. Even species who had not joined the war began to whisper of neutrality. Some even offered secret aid to humans, not out of kindness, but out of fear. They knew what the Council still struggled to admit. Humanity was not a broken species. Humanity was becoming unstoppable. The Krell ambassador, who had warned them since the beginning, spoke in the chamber once more, her voice calm, heavy with truth. You tried to erase them, you failed, and now you face a force that will not stop. They fight as if every ship lost, every city burned, every life stolen has been etched into their hearts. You face not soldiers, but vengeance itself. But still, the Council argued, still they tried to believe numbers would save them. They summoned more fleets, built more weapons, made more promises. Yet no matter how many ships they sent, no matter how many soldiers they armed, the same reports returned, fleets shattered, colonies lost, morale broken. The humans had become a storm, and storms could not be crushed by numbers. And in the dark, void aboard the black flagship of Earth's fleet, the human commanders stood in silence, watching the reports of victory scroll across their screens. Their eyes were cold, their voices calm. One of them finally spoke. They thought we were weak. They thought we were finished. But we are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for memory. We are fighting for every drop of blood they spilled. The others nodded, silent. And outside the viewport, the wreckage of another alien fleet drifted across the stars, burning quietly, a graveyard in the void. The breaking of armadas had begun, and the galaxy understood at last. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the predator. The council chamber was no longer a place of laughter and pride. The golden lights that once reflected glory now flickered like dying candles. Around the vast circle of seats, the delegates of countless empires whispered, hissed and snarled at one another. The sound was not unity. It was fear. Reports had flooded in. One empire after another had lost fleets. Fleets that should have been invincible. Fleets that numbered in the thousands were returning in fragments, or not at all, entire sectors. Once shining with council power, now lay in silence, burned, colonies floating as graveyards, and always the rumor that followed, the humans did this. The Torgan warlord pounded his fist against the crystal table, claws cracking the surface. His voice roared through the chamber. Lies! They cannot do this. They are vermin, scavengers hiding in shadows. They have no fleets left. His voice was thunder, but his eyes betrayed unease. He had seen the recordings, the black warships striking like blades in the dark. He had heard the voices of survivors, broken and trembling. The Krell ambassador, calm and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. You continue to blind yourselves. You continue to lie to your own people. You want to believe humans are weak because it comforts you, but you know what is happening. You see it as, I do. Humanity is not fading. Humanity is growing stronger. Her words carried no anger, only cold truth, and that made them far more dangerous. The Vayari emissary, body flickering like smoke in a storm, hissed in reply, Then what are you saying? That we surrender? That the Great Council bows to a minor world of flesh and bone? No, we cannot. His voice broke, fear twisting every word. Around the chamber, the arguments swelled. Some demanded total war, mass bombardments of Earth until nothing but ash remained. Others begged for peace, for talks, for bargains, for anything that might end the nightmare. Voices clashed like weapons, and through it all, reports continued to arrive. Convoys destroyed, colonies vanished, fleets shattered. The humans were no longer striking like prey. They were choosing their targets carefully, always where it hurt the most. Supply chains, shipyards, command posts. They were not lashing out in rage. They were waging war with precision. A new fear began to crawl through the chamber, whispered, from one delegate to another. What if they are not fighting alone? The thought was poison. Could other species have joined the humans? Could other races, tired of the Council's rule, be aiding them in secret? No proof existed, but fear did not need proof. Fear only needed shadows. The oldest member of the Council, the ancient being whose eyes were like black suns, finally spoke. His voice was low, heavy, filled with the weight of centuries. I told you once, I tell you again. You made a mistake. You struck a world born of fire. You broke them, and in doing so, you freed something you do not understand. They do not fear death as you do. They embrace it. They do not fight for conquest as you do. They fight for vengeance, for survival, and that makes them unstoppable. His words fell like stones into water, ripples spreading across the chamber. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then, the Torgan warlord snarled, desperate. Then we destroy them, we burn their world until nothing remains. His claws clicked against the table, but even he could not meet the eyes of the other delegates. His voice had lost its certainty. His pride was cracking. The Krell ambassador spoke again. You still do not see, even if you burn their world. It will not matter. They no longer fight from Earth alone, they are everywhere, hidden in the dark, striking from shadows. They are no longer a world. They are a storm, and you cannot destroy a storm by striking at the wind. The council chamber filled with unease. Some whispered of retreat, of abandoning sectors too dangerous to hold. Others whispered of surrender, of offering Earth a place at the table before more blood was spilled. And for the first time in centuries, the council was divided. Outside the chamber, in the streets of alien worlds, the fear was worse. Soldiers muttered of human demons that appeared from nowhere. Merchants spoke of ghost fleets that swallowed trade ships whole. Citizens whispered that the council was not as powerful as it claimed. The fear of humanity spread faster than their ships, and in many ways, it was more dangerous than their weapons. Meanwhile, hidden fleets of black warships continued their silent war. Each strike was brutal, each message clear. Humanity was not asking for peace. Humanity was not asking for mercy. Humanity was showing the galaxy a truth it had forgotten, and in every strike, survivors told the same story. Human soldiers who fought beyond reason, who did not retreat, who burned with fury in their eyes. They fought as though every battle was personal, as though every death carried the memory of 1,000 others. Back in the council chamber, the arguments turned to shouting. Lights flickered as systems strained under the chaos. No agreement was reached, no plan decided, only fear remained. And when fear ruled, silence often followed. At the end of the session, as the chamber emptied, the Krell ambassador stayed behind, her eyes lingering on the hologram of Earth projected above the table. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. You thought you silenced them, but in truth you gave them a voice louder than any scream, and now that voice echoes through the stars. Outside, in the vast dark, human fleets moved once more, silent, patient, merciless. The council had debated, the council had feared, but the humans did not waste words. They wasted nothing. Every strike they made was another wound, another scar, another reminder, and as more reports came in of shattered fleets and broken colonies, the council finally faced a truth they could no longer deny. The galaxy had awakened something it could not control. Humanity's vengeance was not a passing storm. It was a war without end, and the council sat in silence, afraid not only of what the humans had done, but of what they would do next. The galaxy thought it had seen humanity's fury. Fleets burned, colonies shattered, council warlords humiliated. But all of that had only been the beginning. Those strikes were not Earth's true weapon, they were only warnings. The revelation came suddenly without mercy. The target was Vayara Prime, a jewel world at the center of the Council's power, a capital of glass towers and floating citadels. Its skies glowed with fleets, its ground bristled with defenses. It was said no force could breach its walls. It was said the world was eternal. The humans arrived in silence, not a fleet, but a single shadow in the void. A ship larger than any recorded before, black hull stretching like a fragment of night itself. At first, the Council sensors dismissed it, their systems refusing to recognize something so vast it was not supposed to exist. Then it fired. The weapon was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A rail cannon stretched across the length of the ship, its barrel a monstrous scar of metal. It charged with a hum that shook the stars themselves. The blast came as a streak of light. Silent, merciless, it did not arc, it did not waver. It struck true, The shield of Vayara Prime, thought impenetrable, shattered like glass. The beam tore into the surface, ripping a city apart in a single strike. Towers fell, oceans boiled, millions screamed into the void. The Council's proudest jewel was cracked open like stone under a hammer, and then, before the stunned fleets could respond, the ship vanished. Its engines folded it back into the dark, leaving only silence, only destruction, only the message. Humanity had unveiled its true strength. Panic spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. The Council called emergency sessions. Warlords roared, ambassadors wept. No one had expected such a weapon. No one had thought humans capable of creating something that could unmake worlds, but whispers rose among the soldiers and civilians of the galaxy. Perhaps they had always been capable. The Krell ambassador, her voice cold as ever, told the Council, "You should not be surprised, their history is clear. They built weapons to destroy themselves long before they turned them on you. You only gave them reason to aim higher. You gave them reason to sharpen their tools." The chamber shook with arguments. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Burn Earth, burn it now. But others shook their heads in fear. If they have one of these weapons, what if they have more? What if Earth has become a forge of monsters? The truth was worse than both. Humanity had not only built one ship, humanity had built many. Reports began to filter in, sightings across distant systems, massive black silhouettes drifting through the dark, each carrying weapons of impossible size. Some claimed they were AI-driven, minds of steel and code that never tired, never hesitated. Some swore the ships carried no crew at all, only vengeance forged into machine. The galaxy had thought humanity would fight with desperation, but desperation had turned into something sharper, colder. Humanity fought with calculation, with invention, with fury, turned into science. On the ruined surface of Vayara Prime, survivors crawled through ash and fire. They whispered of the strike. They spoke of the moment the human weapon cracked their shield. They spoke of the silence that followed. That silence spread faster than the weapon itself, a silence of terror. The Council tried to hide the truth. They tried to claim it was an accident, a natural disaster. But word traveled, and fear does not need proof. Citizens across the stars began to doubt their leaders. Some began to whisper dangerous thoughts. Perhaps the Council was not invincible. Perhaps Earth was stronger. The alien warlords fumed, pride battling fear. We must strike them now. We must end this before it spreads. But no one could agree on how. For every plan raised, someone whispered the same doubt. What if they strike again? What if they aim for our worlds next? The shadow of humanity's weapon had already won. Meanwhile, in the hidden bases where Earth's fleet gathered, human commanders watched in silence. The colossal ship returned from its mission, its hull, scarred but unbroken, its crew silent. Their faces did not glow with triumph. They were calm, steady. Their vengeance had only begun. One officer looked upon the stars and spoke, his voice low. They thought silence meant surrender. Now they will learn silence means death. We do not shout our victories. We let them echo. And in distant systems, more human fleets prepared, more weapons charged. Humanity did not fight with reckless rage. Humanity fought like executioners, calm, certain, delivering judgment. The galaxy trembled, not because of what humanity had done, but because of what humanity had promised. For every strike carried the same message, simple and merciless. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. And across the stars, even the bravest commanders of the Council hesitated before sending their fleets. Every order carried doubt. Every patrol scanned the dark twice. Every soldier looked over their shoulder. The humans had planted fear deeper than any weapon could. The demonstration was complete. Earth had spoken not with words but with fire. And the Council, once so loud, so arrogant, now sat in silence. In the dark void between worlds, humanity's ships drifted, watching, waiting, hunting. The storm was not over. The storm had only just begun, and the galaxy finally understood. Earth was not fighting for survival anymore. Earth was teaching. Earth was showing what happens when prey decides to bite back, and in that lesson, entire empires began to break. The chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Once, it had been a place of thunderous voices, a chorus of arrogance and pride. The delegates of 100 species would shout, laugh, and boast of their power. But now, silence ruled. A silence heavy, suffocating. It pressed against the walls. It lingered in every breath. The holograms above the crystal table flickered with reports, colony after colony in flames, fleets broken, commanders missing. Entire sectors had gone dark. Each new piece of evidence was worse than the last, and no one dared to speak first. The Torgan warlord, once so proud, sat hunched in his seat. His claws tapped against the table, but his voice was gone. He had led fleets against Earth, and now his banners hung in ruins. He had no more words, only shame. The Vayari emissary, whose body once glowed like living fire, flickered weakly, the light in his form dimming. He had mocked humanity, laughed at their weakness. Now he trembled, terrified of the shadows that came from nowhere, shadows that carried human faces. It was the Krail ambassador who finally broke the silence, her eyes sharp as ever, her voice calm, steady. You hear nothing, and still you are afraid. You see nothing, and still you tremble. That is humanity's power. You thought you silenced them, but in truth they silenced you. No one answered. Across the chamber, a new hologram shimmered into view. It was not a fleet report, nor a destroyed colony. It was a recording, the image of a human ship, massive and black, hovering above. The ruins of Vayara Prime. A voice played across the chamber. Calm, merciless. We do not seek mercy. We do not seek peace, we seek balance. For every world you burned, we will return the fire. For every life you stole, we will collect the debt. This is not revenge. This is justice. Remember that. Thry. Words ended. The hologram flickered away. The silence grew deeper. The council had always ruled with fear, but now fear was turned against them. One by one, delegates lowered their eyes. They had no answer, no counter. Humanity had not only broken their fleets, humanity had broken their certainty. For centuries, the council had believed itself untouchable, its fleets unbreakable, its power eternal. But a single world had shattered that illusion. A single world had risen from the ashes of destruction and struck with such force that the galaxy itself trembled. The old being with eyes like black suns spoke again. His voice was heavy with finality. The truth is here. We are no longer masters. We are no longer rulers. The galaxy belongs to silence now, and silence belongs to Earth. The words were not challenged. Not a single delegate dared to speak against them. Meanwhile, beyond the shining walls of the council chamber, the galaxy changed. Civilizations that had once bowed to the council began to hesitate. Some refused to send fleets. Some whispered of alliances with Earth. Others simply vanished into silence, choosing survival over loyalty. Merchants altered their routes, avoiding council space. Soldiers deserted their posts. Families whispered stories of human warriors who could not be killed. Children dreamed, not of serving the council, but of standing beside humanity. The legend had grown larger than the truth, and the legend was more powerful than any weapon, and still the humans did not speak often. They did not broadcast victory across the stars. They let their silence carry weight. Each strike was a message, each ruined fleet a reminder. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was no longer weak. In hidden bases, human commanders gathered, their faces grim but steady. They did not celebrate, they did not boast. One officer spoke softly. They are silent now. The council, the rulers of the galaxy. They do not roar, they do not threaten, they sit in fear. That is victory, but it is not the end. The others nodded, for they knew what the council had not yet accepted. The war was not finished. Humanity would not stop until every debt was paid, until every scar was answered, until every voice silenced by the council was given justice. Back in the chamber, the delegates finally adjourned, not with speeches or cheers, but with heads bowed. Their footsteps echoed against the crystal floors like the tolling of a bell. They had once ruled with arrogance, and now they scattered like frightened prey. The Krell ambassador remained last, staring at the empty seats. Her whisper was soft, but it carried across the vast chamber. The galaxy has changed. The hunters have become the hunted, and we will never return to what we were. Outside, in the endless dark, the ships of Earth drifted silently, patient, waiting, unblinking. The stars reflected across their black hulls, hiding them in plain sight. Their engines hummed softly, not loud enough for anyone to hear, but loud enough to remind the galaxy they were still there, and so the council fell into silence. A silence not of control, not of peace, but of fear. Fear of the shadows in the void. Fear of the vengeance they had awakened. Fear of a single word whispered across the stars. Humanity. The galaxy would remember that silence forever. Not the silence of surrender, not the silence of death, but the silence of predators waiting for the next strike. And in that silence, Earth smiled, for the prey had finally learned who the real hunters were.